Hey everyone, it's Ryan, and thanks for tuning in. This is our Guelph Real Estate Report update for Guelph Today for the month of June. We're going to look at June specifically, but also now we have a full half year of data to share with you. So January 1st to June 30th. And we're also going to take a look at what we expect in the next few months. So tune in. We'd love to have you. Before we get any further, I just want to mention that this is the video version of the Guelph Real Estate Update for June. You can also find the written version on our website with a few more charts, and for those data geeks like me, a little more information as well. That's at bethandryan.ca. And if you prefer to listen to it while you're at the gym or in the car, we have Guelph's #1 real estate report podcast because we are the only consistent Guelph real estate podcast. That updates every 2 weeks. And so we've got all the bases covered: audio, video, written format with an unbiased, honest opinion on how the Guelph real estate market is doing. Some of you may like the information we share. Some of it may make you angry, but we're not trying to make anybody angry. It's just truth. January 1st to June 30th, the overall number of units, so that is the number of houses that sold, is down 13% versus the same period as last year. That's 115 less houses sold this year in Guelph. And I'll get into why I think that is in just a minute, but that's a lot less. And we thought last year was pretty low. So to be even lower than low, I don't know. I mean, it's got to turn around at some point, but it doesn't look like at this point it's going to in the next little while anyways. The dollar volume, if you add up all the sales of homes in Guelph that have sold, they are down 17% versus last year. And if you take a look at the average price, has been a little more resilient. It is minus 4% versus the same period last year. So why are we down 13% in the number of homes sold? It's impossible to say, and there's not one key reason why. It's a wide variety of factors, but all of those factors, all of that noise aside, the main reason that we're down in transactions is simple. Buyers and sellers, for whatever reason, are just not coming together in agreement. And we have had a lot of different situations this year. Buyers being a little pickier with home inspections and expecting maybe sellers to pick up some of the deficiencies cost, or lenders being a little pickier with qualifications. We've heard that quite a bit this year. People being nervous about the economy, sellers asking maybe too much for their house compared to comparables and not willing to negotiate. There are a wide variety of reasons why transactions aren't happening, but they are not happening. That's not every house. We do have situations where we have firm offers, and those are no conditions offers. We do have situations where we have multiple offers. It does happen. And we'll go through those numbers again, and specifically for detached and for condos. But overall, the market is a little more cautious. Things are taking a little longer to move. And as a result, the process takes a little bit longer. More conditions, financing, inspection, and sale of property conditions are all starting to be the norm in most offers. If we take a look at June specifically, we were up against an average number of houses sold per day in June, anywhere from 5.8 all the way up to 9.1. And this year fell short. We sold 4.9. So for the first time in a while, it's been below 5 per day. 4.9 for a total of 148 houses sold in the month of June. So a multi-year low number of homes that sold. If we look at the average price of a home sold in Guelph in June, it was $803,000 in total. That's made up of 111 units at $878,000 in the detached segment, and 37 sales with an average of $581,000 in the condo segment. We'll break those down in just a second for those two segments. But overall, the average price here seems to be in the middle of the range that we've seen in the last year. There's nothing either shockingly low or high about the numbers that came in June. Let's start with the detached segment. We had 111 units, as I mentioned. $545,000 was the low price. That was a semi-detached house in downtown Guelph. And the high price was $2.7 million. Yes, houses over $2.5 million do sell periodically in Guelph. That was in the St. George's Park neighborhood. So as mentioned, the average price, $878,000. That number's been bumping between $800,000 and $900,000 over the past year. So at $878,000, we're getting closer to the high. And as I mentioned, the average price has been pretty resilient in Guelph over the last little while. However, if you take out that sale that was the high in St. George's at 2.7, the average price falls to $861,000. So still pretty healthy and in the middle of the range that we've seen over the last little while. 20 houses of the 111 sold over the asking price, 3 sold at the asking price, and the remaining 88 or 79% of the houses in the detached segment sold under the asking price. So there is definitely some negotiation going on. Now let's take a look at the condo segment. We have the low price of the 37 that sold at $282,300 in the Dovercliff neighborhood. I believe this was on Conroy. And I think it's the first time in a while that we have seen a condo under $300,000. It's great. It's great for first-time buyers. The high was $1,298,000. That was in Victoria North. And in this segment, the average price, as mentioned, was $581,000. That's been bumping around between $500,000 and $600,000 for the longest time. So at $581,000, we're getting close to the top. And I have been noticing a bit of a rebound in this segment. 7 of the 37 units sold over the asking price. That's 19%. 3 sold at the asking price, and the remaining 27 or 73% sold under the asking price. So again, the majority of homes are still being negotiated down, but almost 1 in 5 is still selling over the asking. Now, whether it's designed to sell over the asking or whether there actually was competition, I don't know, but I can tell you that there is a segment of the market that is still selling over the asking price. Last month, we noted that there were, I think maybe it was in May, that there was a large volume of condos to go through to sell, which we usually see about 1 to 1.3 sell per day on average. And we were at the high end of that at the end of May. We were watching to see if that would continue. It didn't continue. It fell back to the norm in in June. And we are still watching that. The average price is still a little bit elevated, but the sales velocity still remains in the long-term trend of just moving along at about 1 per day. So we had 37 sell in 30 days, so just over 1. And looking at today's market and into the next few months, what can we expect? Well, one of the questions we get asked every single day, I think we get asked sometimes 3 times a day, what does the market look like? And I can tell you that if you are a buyer, you're probably loving the market right now and it's working in your favor. You've got first-time buyers getting into the market, which is great. You've got people that couldn't afford to get into the market earlier that are now getting in because prices in some cases are getting to the point where they make sense. Sellers, you have to be a little more competitive with your pricing if you want to sell your house. Again, that's one of the reasons why transactions are down. Sellers are, in some cases, not accepting market value. And it does take longer. So sometimes there are buyers out there. If your property is a little more unique, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But you also have to remember to remain competitive. And there used to be a period, maybe it was about 5 years ago, where if your neighbor sold and then you wanted to sell, you would just take your neighbor's sale price and go a little bit higher. Well, in today's market, you take your neighbor's price and in most cases you go a little bit lower, because with so much inventory on the market today, buyers have choices, and prices don't go up when buyers have choices. When buyers have choices, prices go down. And it's because they can compare properties against each other. They can negotiate them against each other. They can be a little more picky in what they're looking for. They can take their time to make decisions. They can make conditional offers. And as we move closer and closer to a buyer's market, buyers have more control. And so if you are a seller who is demanding a certain price for your house, you have to remove that ego and you have to remove that emotion, because if you really want to sell your house, if that's really the goal, then you have to be more competitive with your pricing. Speaking of lots of inventory on the market, when I did this update about a month ago, we were at 550 houses on the market. We are now at 615 houses on the market. That's a multi-year high. We are at 320 detached houses on the market. That's about a 5% increase versus last month. However, a bit of the story here is the condo segment, which really hasn't had any increase. We looked at these same numbers about a month ago, and they were at the same level that they're at now. So either sellers have given up and taken their condo off the market, or buyers are starting to turn around and the market's starting to move a little bit quicker. But basically, for every new condo listed over the past month, one sold, one off, one on. And there wasn't a net gain at all. Okay, and lastly, if we take a look at the market that we're in, we are sitting technically, so statistically, we are sitting right in the middle of a balanced market, where buyers and sellers have equal opportunity to negotiate. If you're doing this job day to day, like Beth and I do, it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that it's a balanced market and everything's going great for everybody. It feels like sellers are still struggling a little bit to move their house. Buyers are negotiating in their own sort of way, which is sometimes not making a decision quickly. That's a good way to negotiate. Buyers are meeting with lenders, getting pre-approvals, making sure all their ducks in a row before they do anything. And the process takes a little bit longer. It's certainly buyers' time to be in control, and it feels that way from our perspective. July and August are slow months. So we anticipate what's going to happen is that there's going to be less buyers out there and there's going to be less sellers out there. But we are still going to see an inventory rise. So I think what's going to happen is the formula will move quickly towards a buyer's market in the coming months. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see ourselves in a situation where it is almost a buyer's market by the time school comes back in for the kids. If this information is helpful, you can always find our written version on our website, bethandryan.ca. You can also find us on Apple or Spotify for the Guelph Real Estate Report podcast, and this video version where you can subscribe if you like this info. We update it once a month with unbiased Guelph Real Estate info. Talk to you soon.